Hi, I'm Fred McNeil, and thank you for watching QACTV 7. We've started a program called Thank You for Serving. There's 3,353 veterans, men and women, who are veterans of our military service that live in Queen Anne's County. We're trying to get as many as we can to come on and tell their stories. These are people who gave 2 years, 3 years, 20 plus years of their lives serving you. And we have a lot of fun with it. And if things get real bad, Ray, we talk about bocce ball, whatever. Ray, thank you for coming on, and thank you for being with us. How about introduce yourself to the audience?
My name's Ray McConchie.
And Ray, we'll start like I do with everybody. Born and raised where?
I was born and raised in Northwest New Jersey.
Okay. Now, help me out. Northwest, near New York City, or?
Oh, about 25 miles northwest.
You can get into, did you get into the city a lot? Or?
Oh, yeah, quite a few times.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah. And went to high school there.
Okay.
Then I went to college there
Where'd you
as
go to
well.
School?
Bluefield College. It's a small college.
Okay. What was your major?
Political science.
Oh, Lord, good. That's good. Like I said, if things get tough, we can always go for the politics discussion. All right.
That's right.
So you go to school in Jersey. Let's stay when you're young. Football player, theater person, nerd like me. What did you do growing up?
Well, in high school, I ran cross country and track.
I was a cross country coach at the high school for years.
Oh, okay.
Oh, great.
And I ran track. I ran the half mile.
Terrific.
And then I think
Which
nowadays,
has become a sprint now. It's a sprint.
Right, and plus I think it's the 800 meters or something.
Yes, everything is metric.
Right.
Oh, so you were a half miler. Now, in those days, did you run 3.1 miles or 3.2 miles for cross country? Remember back that far? Or?
I don't quite remember.
That's okay. That's all right.
But then in high school, I ran cross country the first year.
Okay.
And then I switched gears, and then from my last 3 years, played baseball.
Oh, baseball player. I was also a baseball coach. What's your position?
Center field.
Center field. You had speed.
Right, just like the John Fogerty song.
Okay. Now, could you hit? That's the key. Could you hit?
Depends who you ask.
I'm not going to ask the coach. How about right or left-handed?
Actually, both.
A switch hitter.
Yes.
Mickey Mantle.
Well, he was my
number 7.
hero growing up. Yeah.
Of course, you grew up with Mantle, Skowron, Tony Kubek, all those great Whitey Ford, Berra, Alston Howard. Okay. Now, let me keep in the New Jersey, New York vein. How often would you go into the city?
Well, when I got to college, we went in maybe once or twice a month.
Oh, that's a big, right into the Manhattan and Broadway and that type of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that would have been exciting.
You know, the interesting thing back then, the drinking age in New Jersey was 21, but the drinking age in New York was 18.
Like Maryland and D.C., same thing. So everyone was going to New York.
Well, in college, right?
Well, it used to be in Washington. I'm sure in New York there's a steady stream of traffic on Friday nights, right? All of us 18-year-olds going into the city. Now, what was New York like growing up city? I mean, was it manageable? I mean, now I take a bus trip, the local Parks and Rec department, Ray. It goes to New York City once a month. You're there from, 12 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock. You get to see a play and eat out to eat. That's all I can take in New York City. It's too fast paced. I love it. But how was it when you were growing up?
You know, we only went to like certain areas. Sure. And it didn't seem that different than where I came from.
And you were young, so you could handle it, right?
Yeah, right.
And you were talking 50s and 60s, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what year did you graduate from college?
1969.
Oh, it's 69. Okay, so we're about the same era. Now, after that job, or right into the service, drafted, what happened?
Well, my background's a little different than a lot of the folks you've spoken to. Obviously, when I became 18, I had to register for the draft.
And everyone, remind everybody, there's a whole generation under, 50 that has no idea what the draft is. We all had to on our 18th birthday by law, right?
Correct.
Register. We used to walk around in a draft card, which we'd get at Spears in New York and Washington.
Exactly.
And that was the law. You had to have it. Okay, so you registered, and so what's going on?
So then when I went to college, I got a student deferment.
The sainted, heavenly 2S deferment.
Right.
Okay.
And they were really quick. I graduated in May of 1969.
Okay.
And immediately in June of 1969, I lost my deferment, and they changed, I think it was 1A.
Right. Which means for those, 2S meant you were a student. They're going to leave you alone if you maintain your grades and good standing in college.
Right.
1A meant Uncle Sam wants you, correct?
Absolutely. So, you know, it was difficult trying to find a job because back then they would say to you, well, what's your draft status?
Sure, I'm 1A, yes.
As soon as you say 1A, they
You're
go,
done.
well, you know, we wanted to train you, but we don't want to spend money on it if we think you're going to get drafted in the next couple months.
A whole different type of work atmosphere than we have now, right?
Right. So then maybe a month later, I got my pre-draft physical, which I passed.
Okay. Now remind everybody, a lot of people, again, unless they've seen it in the movies, you and what, 1,000 other people, a couple of hundred other people had to report someplace and get a medical physical.
Get a complete physical, and then you know, ask you some questions, and then if you pass the physical, then they say, well, then you're definitely 1A and you're
in
draft material.
You're in trouble.
So, and around that time in 1969, I forget exactly when it happened, but Congress and the president, they got together and approved a law where they were going to get rid of the draft and replace it with a lottery.
Because it became such a political ball, as you know, while you were in college. Kids just ticked off that this was going on, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And then, so it was decided the draft would end December 1969.
Okay.
And the lottery would then begin in January.
And a lottery, and again, I apologize, I keep interrupting, but a lottery is exactly like we're talking about. They put your numbers in a drum, but you go ahead.
Right, and then based on your date of birth,
when you might be called up, right?
Right.
Yes.
So probably in late October, I got this envelope in the mail.
The dreaded letter.
Right, the dreaded letter. It didn't say Uncle Sam wants you, but it should have, because they said, you know, you're drafted.
Okay.
So I was to report November 18th of
And this is of 69, okay.
Right. Now, what they did was, because the draft was ending that year, they decided to combine both November and December drafts into one.
Okay.
And maybe they didn't want to draft people like around the holidays or something. Right. So I was drafted then in the last group of people.
Oh, you were the last group
that was actually drafted. So, and like 2 weeks before, a good friend of mine from college had also gotten drafted.
Okay.
So since he got his first, he was going in before me. But we said to each other, after he found out I was going in, he said, well, let's look for each other at Fort Dix in New Jersey, which is
basic training where they brought you all in.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
So comes November 18th, you know, I get up early. My dad drives me to, I think it was an American Legion, where it was going to be the place where they would pick us up, take us to the induction center.
Military?
Yes.
Oh, so okay.
U.S. Army.
So he's a little worried about you. My son's about ready to go into service. Yeah.
Right. So they take us down to the induction center, and then maybe there were 60 of us in the room waiting for whatever the next step was. Figured it was going to be a bus to Fort Dix.
Right.
And all of a sudden, this Marine officer, I think he was a captain, comes and says, "Attention, man, I need to talk to you for a minute." And he said, the Marines did not make their quota for the month. I want
some of you draftees.
So we need 2 volunteers to join the world's greatest fighting force. And he said, so let me see a show of hands.
Who'd be interested? Nobody.
Not one person volunteered.
That tells you where America was politically in 1969.
Right, you know. So he says, okay, think about it. I'll be back in about 10, 15 minutes.
And you could still maintain your 2 years duty?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Which would be a little unusual, because normally Marines are, 3 or 4 or whatever?
Yeah, if you enlist.
Right.
So he comes back. He has a clipboard.
Uh-oh.
And he goes, okay, anybody volunteer? He looks around.
Nobody.
Not one volunteered. So he gets his clipboard. He goes, okay, well, the following 2 people report to me.
Oh, he volunteered you.
And one of the names he pulled out was mine.
Yours.
Yes.
So it was just...
I always wondered how that happened.
How the heck did it happen?
Right.
Oh. So that's very interesting, because I joined, our years are 66 to I got out September 69 when you were going in, because you were going to college. So you were actually a draftee who got in the Marines.
Right, so in a way
unusual.
I was drafted twice. I got my regular draft notice, and then I was drafted into the Marines.
Now, and so this guy just had the right to do that?
Yeah.
Okay, amazing, amazing.
So I didn't know the other guy, but his name was Ed. So the two of us, he goes, follow me. So, you know, he sits us down, talks to us a little bit. Okay, he goes, so your basic training is going to be in Parris Island, giving you guys a plane ticket to fly down to
Parris Island.
And I had never flown before, so it was like my first,
adventure. Yes.
What a day, you know. I got drafted in the Marines, and I had my first flight. So I called my parents at the airport and
said... Now, what branch was your dad in?
Army.
Oh, what did he hear what did he say when he heard the Marines? Did he make the sign of the cross? Or
right, he was shocked, because, you know, they thought, why are you calling? Aren't you at Fort Dix?
Yeah.
Well, a little change of plans.
Oh, Lord.
So told him what happened. Said, well, we're going to Parris Island now, so I don't know I'll write
you're
if I can.
You're a college grad. You're 22. Is that right?
Right, 22.
So, I mean, you're a smart guy. You're mature. How did you handle that?
Well, I was a little bit of shock,
you
going from a college student, college graduate, and now I'm going to be a Marine. When, I wasn't thinking about that. Sure. It's different if you're thinking, I'm going in the Marines. Yes. So got the flight, and then we got down, and then at the airport, there was a bus to pick us up. There were several other guys there waiting too. And I remember getting on the bus, and the bus drove into Parris Island. And, it was like the middle of the night at that point.
Different world.
Yeah.
Different world.
And all of a sudden, the doors of the bus open, and this drill instructor runs up in the bus and starts, okay, you guys, wake up, get your gear and get out.
Welcome to the Marines, right?
Right.
And here's a guy who's thinking college co-eds, what am I going to do this summer? Isn't that amazing? Well, we all had that. I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Same thing. All of a sudden, we're there after a 6 or 8 hour bus trip. This drill sergeant, they look like Olympians, using language you and I would never use.
Yeah.
Calling you every name, and hello, and you're going. This is cultural shock, right? So, how did you handle the Marine drill sergeant?
Well, as soon as you run out of the bus, there's the famous footprints.
Correct. You had to follow.
Yeah, and if you all stand on the footprints, you're in formation. So, they yelled at us for a little bit, told us where we were going to go. Right.
Okay.
So, so that was the beginning of my 2 years as a Marine.
And now, were most of the rest people who would join the Marines? Now, did you actually have a U.S., I'm RA 11-569, regular Army. Did you maintain the U.S. symbol of your service number? How did they do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serial number.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you were U.S.
Yeah.
Drafted. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So I was 22, like you said, and a lot of guys they're 18, 19.
Babies. Yeah.
So eventually we formed into a platoon, and then we started our basic training.
Was it Marines 8 weeks, 6 weeks? How long?
I think it's longer now, but I think back then it was probably 8, 9 weeks.
Okay, now Ray, horror show, okay. I mean, you're a college grad, you're smart, you're intelligent, lived in an urban New Jersey all of a sudden. I mean, was it totally cultural shock like it was for me? I mean, yelling at you, eating, shoving food down.
Right, yeah, you get to the mess hall, you'd be eating, and all of a sudden they say, okay, get up, I mean, the one thing they really instilled in us was discipline.
Yes. Now, how did it go? Interesting, because I never even thought about this. How did it go with the guys who had joined? All of a sudden, here's a guy that kind of got drafted in the Marines. Was there any resentment, feelings, or no?
No, they never really asked who was drafted and who was enlisted.
Were there a lot of draftees in the Marines at that point?
There were about 5 or 6, I think, in my
really?
platoon.
Oh, wow, that's a good number.
And but the one thing I did learn, it was funny. They had this thing for college graduates.
Oh, make you an officer, make you a pilot, do something. Yes.
Because I remember the first and last time I ever volunteered.
You learn.
The DI says all of a sudden, "Okay, who's a college graduate?" So they want me to do something
make you a general
important,
or something.
right?
Yes, yeah.
So a couple of us raised our hands. He said, "Okay, report to the next platoon in the barracks next to us." So we run over there, and it turns out that platoon was graduating, and they needed other people to clean their head or their bathroom.
Thank you, bachelor's degree.
Right.
Here you thought you were going to be promoted to a warrant officer or something.
So that was the last time I think I ever volunteered.
You were smart. Now, so after basic training and advanced individual training, or they make you infantry? What do they do in the Marines? So you get through basic training. What's the next step?
One funny thing while I was still in basic, graduation day, one of the assistant DIs came up to me and he said, "Just want you to know your parents are here."
Oh, wow.
Because, parents could go watch for graduation day. And I said, "Are you sure?" I said, because, my dad wasn't big for like long road trips.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trip, New Jersey to Paris, yes.
So the graduation day was the only day like we had liberty.
Right.
So I spent half the day looking around, going to PX, I can't find my parents anywhere. But then the DI came looking for me. He goes, "I've been looking for you." He says, "I made a mistake. Your parents aren't here."
Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot, Drill Sergeant.
So anyway.
So where did they ship you after basic?
We went directly to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where we started infantry training.
Oh, you were now in the Army. That was called 11 Bravo. Is the Marines? Is there a number for infantry?
Well, for grunt, I don't remember them.
Grunt's good enough. That's good enough. Okay.
Well, in basic, they also assigned us our MOS.
Okay, military occupational specialty, right?
Yes, and mine was 3041, which was supply administration.
Oh, good. That's a lot better than a grunt and 11 Bravo. Good for you. Okay.
So, so I think infantry was 3 or 4 weeks long.
Okay.
Learned different weapons.
Basic how to fire weapons,
right, grenades, all that stuff. And then we had like maybe a 2-week lull before I was going to go to supply administration school.
So you had some leave time, or what did they do?
We kept us there. We did all kinds like guard duty.
Detail, just simple details.
Yes.
To keep you busy. Keep you busy.
So then supply administration school was 3 weeks long.
Think you're a supply clerk or supply sergeant or something like that.
Yeah, because this is pre-computers.
Right. Everything was on paper and pencil.
Exactly.
Yes.
How to do inventory control and all this other stuff. So the last day of supply administration school, we're going to have a final exam.
Uh-oh. What was the final? I'm afraid to ask.
And they said to us, "Do well on the final exam because that's going to determine where you're stationed."
Yes, yes.
So, so that day we all go in, paper and pencil, working on all the questions. And for some reason, I went right through it, but I was afraid to get up because I thought, maybe I screwed up, and I don't want to.
I missed a page or something.
Yeah, because no one else had gotten up. Right. So, I went through my.
But you're a college grad, so you're way ahead of this group, right?
Well, yeah, but there were other college grads there too.
Still working.
So, and the guy that had been drafted with me, he was also supply.
Oh, wow, good.
So we were both there. So 1 or 2 people got up and left. So I thought, well,
it's safe now.
It's safe. So I go out in the hallway, and there's a long table and 2 Marines sitting behind. And they look at me. They go, "Just finished the test?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Come here." So he hands me a paper, and he said, "These are where all the available slots are where you can be stationed. Pick where you want to go."
Right. Good luck.
So I said, stupid me, I said, it doesn't matter on how well I did on the test? And they just looked at me and say, "Pick where you want to go."
Really?
So I looked at them, Quantico was on there, and Pendleton, and I think 29 Palms was even there. So I saw Arlington, Virginia. So I said, oh, I'll pick Arlington,
DC
Virginia.
area, why not? And that's how you ended up they actually let you pick your duty station.
Yes. And my poor friend Ed, who he stayed in the classroom and classroom. And time he came out, and I said, Ed, go over there quick.
Yeah.
You know,
pick something nice.
Arlington.
Pick something nice.
And by the time he got there, Arlington was full. So he picked Quantico.
Oh, okay.
So then right the next day, then we were given, I guess, maybe 2-3 weeks leave.
You got to go home for it.
Yes, yes.
And then so you're a supply personnel type person. You go to Arlington. Now in Arlington, you were working supply, or what did they have you do? Or they do like the military, they did immediately change your occupation. I mean.
No, they didn't do that, but they were, I reported to Henderson Hall.
Okay.
It's headquarters Marine Corps.
This is Northern Virginia.
Yes.
Arlington.
H&S Company. And there were like 2 aspects of supply. One was regular supply,
Like giving out the boots,
ordering equipment for the base and stuff like that. But the other side was a clothing cash sales store, uniforms.
Okay. So Marines could just go in and buy stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was assigned to the uniform cash sales store.
Oh, wow. So you retail sales or wholesale sales?
Pretty much, that's what it was.
Good for you.
But, I worked in the back office, requisitioning, the uniforms we needed. Henderson Hall at that time, I don't know if it still is now, but they had an embassy school there for Marines who were assigned
embassy duty, right?
Embassy duty. So when they were done there, we would always outfit them like with their dress blues.
You have to dress a certain way if you're going embassy duty.
Right.
Yes.
So.
That wasn't a bad duty then, was it?
No, like I said, I was very fortunate.
Now, did they have barracks there? Did you have civilian housing? What did you do?
Well, there were barracks.
Okay, and you ate right on base and everything?
Yeah, there was a PX there and a movie theater and
this is headquarters. There's
club.
There's a lot of brass walking around, I imagine, right? So you had to be careful, right?
Yeah, and where Henderson Hall is, one side of it is adjacent to the cemetery.
Okay, Arlington Cemetery.
Arlington. Another side was adjacent to Fort Myer, which was an Army base.
Yes.
I think now Henderson Hall and Fort Myer, there's something about a joint base.
They mixed it all up.
Yes.
I can't figure it. I have no idea what the bases are anymore. Now, what rank were you?
Well, I finished, when I got out, I was a corporal, E4.
E4, that's what I was, an E4, okay. And so you're living in the D.C. area. Now, how did you do in the D.C. area? This is 71?
Well, I was there 70 and 71.
Okay, now how did you do on a corporal's pay, and how was that? Of course, you could eat and live on base, but did you do all right?
Well, I was on base, but then when I made corporal, I was allowed to move off base.
Okay, E4 could move off base?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You had to be NCO to move off base.
Okay.
And so there were a couple other guys I knew living off base, so there were like 4 of us in an apartment.
Where'd you live in Northern Virginia? Or?
Yeah, I think in Alexandria.
Okay. Well, you and I, and it's funny, I got out in '69. You were there in the Marines, and I was going to Georgetown, and I forget the clubs, Blues Alley in 1789. So we probably bumped into each other sneaking into D.C. on the weekends or whatever. And so 2 years Marine, E4, you got lucky. Now, when you say retail, make sure you're selling them the dress outfits and the
any type of uniform.
Oh, any type, okay. And primarily for people who are going to do embassy duty or everybody?
Well, anybody on the base.
Oh, anybody on the base. Okay.
Plus, I had this special job.
Oh, great.
This is the side of a tractor trailer truck.
Oh,
okay?
yeah, the Marine, oh yes,
right.
1775.
But inside, it was like our traveling store.
So you had all types of merchandise.
They're all types of merchandise, and once or twice a month, we would drive out to different bases, Fort Meade, Annapolis. I think we even went to Bethesda.
Oh, right.
So if there were Marines stationed there, they wouldn't have to come to us.
Okay.
We would come to them.
Fun though, right?
Yeah, so it got me out. And
oh, good. Okay, that wasn't bad, dude. Right. Well, you're like me. We've had this discussion with a lot of guests. For every soldier in the field, playing G.I. Joe. They're guys like you and I are sitting. I tell everybody I flew an LMD, a large mahogany desk. I mean, I was a paperwork guy, whether it was supply or S2 military intelligence. But we were supporting, like you were, providing them with the uniforms, and I was providing them, with information or whatever we were doing. But there's 9 of us for everyone out in the field, like Bob Nielsen, who tells us stories about being G.I. Joe. And without us, they wouldn't make it. And without them, we wouldn't have made it, right?
Right.
Did you have any overseas duty but the whole time in Virginia?
The entire time I was
as a Marine. Good
Henderson
for you.
Hall.
You beat the system. I mean, come on. How many Marines didn't during the Vietnam era? I don't know how you felt, but when I heard people say Marines in the 60s, early 70s, you were cannon fodder. I don't know, again.
Right. Well, when I reported to Henderson Hall and, started working at the uniform store, there were several guys there waiting to, they were short timers, just had a couple months to go, and many of them had served overseas or in Vietnam and stuff.
And the Marines, bless their hearts, there was a whole different thing in Vietnam than us Army. Us Army guys, a bunch of gold breakers. They were fighting a war. We weren't fighting a war. Well, so you did read. Oh, good for you. That's interesting. Okay. Now, did you like general impression? Northern Virginia must be like New Jersey, where you're from, is it, in terms of buildings and environment and restaurant, or not?
Yeah, we were maybe a mile from the Pentagon.
Oh, yeah.
So it was easy. There were buses going right by. You could, if you wanted to go into D.C., look around.
So you had an urban experience, and so basically, Uncle Sam gave you 2 years of a good time in D.C. Not a good time, but a decent time.
Yeah, although one interesting thing, I think it was in the summer of '71.
Okay.
There were a lot of peace demonstrations.
Oh, D.C. every month there was something. Wasn't
Yeah,
there?
well, there was this one led by Benjamin Spock. I think he was the baby doctor.
Yes, Ben Spock, of course.
Yeah, and
who a lot of people say ruined every baby boom in the history of,
So his goal was they wanted to, Monday morning, they wanted to shut down all the traffic going into D.C.
I was at University of Maryland. That was a regular process.
So
yes.
at all the bridges, they're going to. So we were told, we weren't put on standby or anything, but we were told if we were going to go into D.C., even that weekend or Monday,
be prepared.
Make sure you wear your uniform.
Oh, wear your uniform.
Because, as it turned out, when people started demonstrating, the police were just swooping people up.
Yes.
And then I think they were putting them in RFK Stadium so they could sort them out.
Where the D.C. Armory was behind that fence. Yeah. Well, one of the things that always confounded me, look, I respect people who protested against war. That's their decision. But I never could figure out, you probably remember, in the Georgetown area, they were throwing burning trash cans on the middle of roads. And I always wanted to say, look, I respect your disagreeing with the war, but stopping a commuter, a GS9 going to work by a burning trash can who's listening to Hardin Weaver, you're probably not going to change things, right?
Right. You're not going to change anybody's mind doing that.
No. Now, Ray, our time's almost up. How about just a quick, overall, would you say military, the 2 years, good experience? Neutral or what?
Well, for me, I would say it was a good experience.
Well, good. Okay, I'm glad. That's right. Okay.
I mean, I think I learned discipline. I learned to maybe think differently. When we went in to Parris Island, everybody was sort of an individual.
Right.
But then towards the end you started thinking more as a team. And I think that helped me later on thinking more like for teamwork as opposed to individual.
So a different way to look at life and what my role might be, which is good. Well, first of all, thank you for your service.
And thank you for yours.
Northern Virginia is great. Now, I guess the most important thing we have to worry about now is let's get bocce ball season here. Ray and I play bocce ball together. We have I don't know about you, the Wednesdays, I look forward to those when it's not freezing, but it's nothing but fun, right?
Right. And Fred, he's been my teammate, and he's also been my opponent.
Well, this is the only man who knows how to keep score, so I have to stay near. Reagan, thank you. And I'd like to thank everybody in the audience for watching. Thank you for serving. My name's Fred McNeil. My time's up. Thank you for your time, and we're going to see you next time.